What if I told you that right now, invisible waves of energy are radiating from your heart with a magnetic field 100 times stronger than your brain, extending up to 3 feet in every direction around your body, and that the emotions you're feeling at this very moment are literally encoding information into this field that can influence not just your own biology, but the energy patterns of everyone within your electromagnetic reach. This isn't mystical thinking or wishful speculation. This is measurable, documented science that reveals something extraordinary about the nature of human consciousness and its relationship to the fabric of reality itself. Welcome back to this quiet corner of the universe, where science meets contemplation, and where the most profound discoveries often whisper rather than shout. I'm here to guide you through one of the most fascinating intersections of modern research, where the ancient understanding of energy fields meets cutting-edge discoveries in quantum physics, neuroscience, and electromagnetic biology. Tonight we're going to explore how your emotional states create measurable changes in the energy field around you, and how this phenomenon might offer clues about consciousness itself. Before we drift into the depths of this mystery, I want you to get comfortable. This isn't a journey that requires you to take notes or memorize formulas. Instead, think of this as a gentle exploration where each idea builds naturally into the next, like following a stream that gradually reveals the landscape around it. Whether you're settling in for sleep or simply letting your mind wander, allow these concepts to wash over you like waves of possibility. Now let me share something that might surprise you. Every single cell in your body is surrounded by an electric field so intense that it measures around 10 million volts per meter. To put that in perspective, that's roughly equivalent to the electrical intensity found in a lightning bolt. Yet it's happening right now, in the membrane of every one of your 60 trillion cells. This isn't science fiction. This is the fundamental electromagnetic nature of life itself, and it's the foundation for understanding how emotions might influence what we call reality. The story begins with your heart, that remarkable organ that beats roughly 100,000 times each day, pumping life through your body with mechanical precision. But your heart is far more than just a biological pump. It's the most powerful electromagnetic generator in your entire body, creating rhythmic waves of energy that dwarf the electrical activity of your brain by a factor of 60 to 1. When scientists measure the magnetic field produced by your heart, they discover something even more remarkable. It's more than 100 times stronger than the field generated by your brain, and it extends outward from your body in all directions, creating an invisible sphere of influence that can be detected with sensitive instruments up to 3 feet away. But here's where it gets truly interesting. The patterns within this electromagnetic field aren't random. They change moment by moment based on your emotional state. When you experience what researchers call coherent emotions, feelings like appreciation, compassion, or genuine love, your heart rhythm becomes remarkably ordered, creating smooth, sine wave-like patterns that optimize the efficiency of your entire cardiovascular system. Conversely, when you experience stress, frustration, or anxiety, your heart rhythm becomes chaotic and erratic, and this disorder is immediately reflected in the electromagnetic field your heart generates. Think about this for a moment. Your emotions aren't just internal experiences floating around in some abstract mental space. They're creating measurable, physical changes in the energy field that surrounds your body. This field carries information about your emotional state, broadcasting it into the space around you like a biological radio station that's constantly transmitting the frequency of your inner world. The HeartMath Institute, a research organisation that has spent over 30 years studying the relationship between emotions and electromagnetic fields, has documented something extraordinary about this process. They've discovered that this emotional information encoded in your heart's magnetic field doesn't just stay contained within your own biological system. It can actually influence the electromagnetic fields of other people nearby, creating a form of energetic communication that happens entirely below the threshold of conscious awareness. Imagine walking into a room and immediately sensing that something feels off, even though you can't pinpoint exactly what's wrong. Or consider those moments when you're around someone who just seems to radiate calm and positivity, making you feel more peaceful simply by being in their presence. Some interpretations of this research suggest that what you might be experiencing is this electromagnetic communication between biofields, though the exact mechanisms remain an active area of investigation. As you listen to this, take a moment to notice your own emotional state right now. Are you feeling curious, relaxed, perhaps slightly skeptical? Whatever you're experiencing, remember that these feelings are creating subtle but measurable changes in the electromagnetic field around your body at this very moment. You're not just a passive observer of these concepts, you're an active participant in the very phenomenon we're exploring. This brings us to one of the most intriguing aspects of modern quantum physics, the observer effect. In the quantum world, the act of observation appears to influence the behavior of subatomic particles. When scientists observe a quantum system, it behaves differently than when it remains unobserved. This has led to fascinating questions about the role of consciousness in shaping physical reality, though it's important to note that there's no scientific consensus on exactly how or whether this quantum phenomenon scales up to influence our everyday experience. Some researchers have begun to explore whether there might be parallels between the observer effect in quantum mechanics and the way our emotional states seem to influence our experience of reality. Consider how your mood can completely transform your perception of the same situation. A challenging conversation might feel overwhelming when you're stressed, but manageable when you're in a state of emotional coherence. The external circumstances haven't changed, but your internal electromagnetic signature has, and with it, your entire experience of the moment. This is where the intersection of consciousness and physics becomes particularly fascinating. Your brain operates through electrical impulses traveling along networks of neurons, creating complex patterns of electromagnetic activity. When you focus your attention on a particular thought or feeling, you're literally changing the electrical patterns in your brain, which in turn influences the overall electromagnetic field generated by your nervous system. Recent neuroscience research has shown that these electromagnetic fields don't just reflect brain activity, they may actually influence it. The brain's electrical field can affect the firing patterns of neurons, creating what scientists call ephaptic coupling, a form of wireless communication between brain cells. This suggests that the electromagnetic field generated by your thoughts and emotions might create feedback loops that influence your ongoing mental and emotional states. But the story doesn't end with individual brains and hearts. Some of the most intriguing research in this field explores what happens when multiple people's biofields interact. Studies have documented cases where groups of people engaged in synchronized activities like meditation or focused intention work begin to show coherent patterns across their individual electromagnetic fields. While the mechanisms behind this apparent synchronization remain unclear, the phenomenon raises fascinating questions about the nature of consciousness and collective human experience. Consider what happens during those rare moments when you feel deeply connected to another person, when conversation flows effortlessly and you seem to understand each other without words. Some researchers speculate that these experiences might involve a form of electromagnetic resonance between biofields, though this remains a hypothesis rather than established fact. What we do know is that humans have a remarkable capacity to influence each other's emotional states through proximity and interaction, and electromagnetic field interactions represent one potential mechanism for this phenomenon. The implications extend beyond individual interactions to larger questions about human collective behavior. Researchers have observed correlations between global emotional events and changes in the Earth's electromagnetic field, though the causal relationships, if any, remain unclear. The Global Coherence Initiative monitors the planet's magnetic field and has noted interesting correlations between significant world events and variations in electromagnetic patterns, though these findings are preliminary and require further investigation. This research opens up profound questions about the nature of individual consciousness and its relationship to the broader fabric of reality. If our emotional states are constantly creating electromagnetic signatures that interact with the fields around us, what does this mean for our understanding of personal boundaries and individual identity? Are we truly separate beings, or are we more like individual waves in an ocean of interconnected electromagnetic activity? Take a deep breath and consider how this perspective might shift your understanding of your daily interactions. Every conversation, every shared glance, every moment of emotional resonance might involve layers of communication that extend far beyond words and conscious gestures. Your biofield is constantly in dialogue with the electromagnetic environment around you, influenced by and influencing the energy patterns of the spaces you inhabit and the people you encounter. This is where ancient wisdom traditions and modern science find common ground. For thousands of years, contemplative practices have recognized the existence of subtle energy fields that surround and interpenetrate living beings. Terms like aura, chi, or prana point toward an understanding of human beings as electromagnetic entities whose well-being depends on the healthy flow and balance of energy through their system. While the language differs, the fundamental recognition remains consistent. We are energetic beings whose inner states create patterns that extend beyond the boundaries of our physical bodies. Modern research is beginning to provide scientific frameworks for understanding these ancient insights. The biofield, as it's now called in scientific literature, represents a complex organizing energy field that appears to be involved in the generation, maintenance, and regulation of biological processes. This field encompasses the electromagnetic signatures generated by your heart, brain, and cellular activity, creating a dynamic pattern of energy that's as unique as your fingerprint, yet constantly changing based on your thoughts, emotions, and physiological state. What makes this particularly relevant to your daily life is the growing understanding that you have more influence over your biofield than you might imagine. Through practices that promote what researchers call psychophysiological coherence, the alignment of your heart rhythm, breathing patterns, and emotional state, you can create more ordered and harmonious patterns in your electromagnetic field. This isn't about wishful thinking or positive affirmations. It's about learning to regulate your nervous system in ways that optimize the coherence of your biofield. As we prepare to dive deeper into the practical implications of this research, I want you to sit with this idea for a moment. You're not just a collection of thoughts and feelings contained within the boundaries of your skin. You are an electromagnetic being whose inner states create ripples of influence that extend into the space around you. Your emotions are not private experiences. They are energetic signatures that participate in the larger symphony of electromagnetic activity that connects all living systems. In our next section, we'll explore the specific mechanisms through which emotional states appear to influence electromagnetic fields, and we'll examine the growing body of research that suggests these changes might have measurable effects on both individual well-being and social dynamics. We'll also look at practical techniques developed by researchers for consciously influencing your biofield through emotional regulation, and we'll consider what this might mean for your understanding of personal agency and your ability to shape your experience of reality. But for now, simply rest in the wonder of this possibility. As you breathe, imagine the invisible field of energy that surrounds your body, pulsing gently with the rhythm of your heart, shifting subtly with each thought and feeling. You're participating in one of the most fundamental processes of life itself, the constant dance of electromagnetic energy that connects your inner world to the vast field of consciousness that some say underlies all existence. The research reveals something even more extraordinary about this electromagnetic dance happening within and around your body. Scientists have discovered that the biofield operates through what they call biophoton communication, where cells literally communicate with each other using incredibly faint pulses of light. These are not photons you could see with your naked eye, but rather quantum-level emissions that carry information between cellular structures at the speed of light itself. Think about this for a moment. Right now, as you sit here listening, your cells are having conversations with each other, using light itself as their language. This biophoton activity appears to be involved in everything from cellular repair and regeneration to the coordination of complex biological processes throughout your body. When researchers examine these light emissions under laboratory conditions, they find that the patterns change dramatically based on the emotional and physiological state of the organism being studied. What's particularly fascinating is that these biophotons don't seem to be random emissions. They appear to carry coherent information, almost like biological fiber optic networks running throughout your entire system. Some interpretations of this research suggest that emotions might influence the coherence and intensity of these light-based communications, though the exact mechanisms remain an active area of scientific investigation. Consider how this might relate to those moments when you walk into a room and immediately sense the emotional atmosphere, even before anyone speaks. While we don't fully understand the mechanisms involved, some researchers speculate that variations in biophoton emissions might contribute to the subtle energetic information we unconsciously pick up from our environment and the people around us. As you breathe right now, imagine this invisible symphony of light pulsing through your system, carrying messages between your heart and brain, between your nervous system and your immune cells, between every organ and tissue in your body. This isn't poetry or metaphor, though it certainly sounds poetic. This is the actual biological reality of how your body maintains its extraordinary complexity and coordination. The implications become even more intriguing when we consider recent discoveries about what scientists call the quantum vacuum, the supposedly empty space between particles. Quantum physics has revealed that this apparent emptiness is actually teeming with activity, filled with virtual particles that pop in and out of existence in time frames so brief they challenge our normal understanding of reality. Some theoretical physicists have proposed that biological systems might interact with these quantum vacuum fluctuations in ways we're only beginning to understand. This brings us to one of the most profound questions in modern science. Where does the boundary exist between the quantum world and the biological world? For decades, scientists assumed that quantum effects were too delicate to survive in the warm, noisy environment of living systems. But recent research has discovered quantum phenomena operating within biological structures, from the way plants harvest light during photosynthesis to the navigation systems used by migratory birds. Your brain itself might be operating as a kind of quantum computer, though this remains highly speculative. Some researchers have proposed that consciousness itself might emerge from quantum processes occurring within the microtubules of neurons, tiny structures that help maintain cellular shape and organization. While this hypothesis remains controversial and unproven, it raises fascinating questions about the relationship between quantum mechanics and human awareness. What we do know with greater certainty is that your emotional states create cascading effects throughout your entire biological system. When you experience stress, for example, your body releases hormones like cortisol that directly influence cellular voltage and electromagnetic activity. These stress hormones can disrupt the normal electrical patterns within your cells, potentially affecting everything from immune function to cognitive performance. Conversely, when you cultivate coherent emotional states, feelings like gratitude, compassion, or deep appreciation, your body releases entirely different biochemical signals. These positive emotional states appear to optimize cellular voltage and enhance the coherence of electromagnetic activity throughout your system. Some research suggests this might even influence genetic expression, though the mechanisms involved remain an active area of investigation. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling right now as we explore these ideas together. Are you experiencing curiosity, wonder, perhaps a touch of skepticism mixed with fascination? Whatever emotions are arising, remember that they're creating real, measurable changes in the electromagnetic patterns flowing through your body at this very moment. This leads us to one of the most practical aspects of biofield research: the development of techniques for consciously influencing your electromagnetic coherence. The HeartMath Institute has pioneered what they call the quick coherence technique, a simple practice that combines focused breathing with intentional emotional states to create more ordered patterns in your heart rhythm and, by extension, your entire biofield. The technique itself is elegantly simple. You focus your attention on the area around your heart. Imagine your breath flowing in and out of this space, and then activate a genuine feeling of appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. Within minutes, this practice can shift your heart rhythm from chaotic, stress-induced patterns to smooth, coherent waves that optimize your entire cardiovascular system. But the effects extend far beyond your heart. When your heart rhythm becomes coherent, it appears to entrain other systems throughout your body. Your brain waves begin to synchronize with your heart rhythm. Your breathing naturally becomes more efficient, and the electromagnetic field generated by your biofield becomes more organized and harmonious. Some interpretations of this research suggest that these coherent electromagnetic patterns might influence not just your own physiology, but also the biofields of people around you. The idea is that whoever has the strongest coherence in a group setting can unconsciously entrain the electromagnetic patterns of others nearby. Though this remains a hypothesis rather than established scientific fact. Imagine sitting in a meeting with someone who radiates genuine calm and presence. You might notice that your own stress levels decrease simply by being in their vicinity. While multiple factors could explain this phenomenon, including mirror neurons and unconscious behavioral mimicry, electromagnetic field interactions represent another potential mechanism for this kind of emotional contagion. The research on electromagnetic entrainment becomes particularly intriguing when we consider larger social dynamics. Some studies have examined whether groups of people engaged in synchronized activities like meditation or focused intention work begin to show correlated patterns in their individual biofields. While the findings remain preliminary and controversial, they raise fascinating questions about collective human consciousness and the possibility of electromagnetic coherence at larger scales. Consider the atmosphere at a live concert when thousands of people become emotionally synchronized with the music and each other. Or think about the palpable tension that can emerge in a crowd during times of conflict or uncertainty. While we typically explain these phenomena through psychology and social dynamics, some researchers speculate that electromagnetic field interactions might contribute to these collective emotional states. This brings us to an even more speculative area of research: the possibility that human biofields might interact with the Earth's own electromagnetic field. Our planet generates a complex pattern of magnetic activity, from the familiar north-south dipole field that guides compass needles to more subtle electromagnetic resonances that pulse through the atmosphere. The Global Coherence Initiative has been monitoring correlations between significant world events and changes in the Earth's electromagnetic patterns. While these correlations don't prove causation, they raise intriguing questions about whether human collective consciousness might interact with planetary electromagnetic systems in ways we don't yet understand. This remains highly speculative and requires much more research to draw any firm conclusions. As you contemplate these possibilities, take a breath and consider how this perspective might shift your understanding of your place in the larger web of existence. If your biofield is constantly interacting with the electromagnetic environment around you, then you're not just passively experiencing reality, you're actively participating in its creation through the quality of your emotional and electromagnetic coherence. This connects to ancient wisdom traditions that have long recognized humans as energetic beings whose inner states influence the world around them. Practices like meditation, prayer, and contemplative movement have been understood for millennia as ways of cultivating beneficial energy patterns that serve. Modern research is beginning to provide insights into both individual well-being and collective harmony, offering scientific frameworks for understanding these traditional meditation practices. For instance, have documented measurable changes in electromagnetic brain patterns, heart rhythm coherence, and even genetic expression among experienced practitioners. While we're still far from understanding the complete picture, the evidence suggests that contemplative practices might indeed influence the biofield in beneficial ways. What makes this particularly relevant to your daily life is the growing recognition that you have more agency over your electromagnetic patterns than you might imagine. Through conscious attention to your emotional states, breathing patterns, and mental focus, you can learn to cultivate greater coherence in your biofield. This isn't about magical thinking or reality manipulation. It's about optimizing your biological systems for greater health, clarity, and emotional resilience. The practical applications extend into every aspect of human experience. Consider how electromagnetic coherence might influence your relationships. When you're in a state of genuine appreciation or compassion, some research suggests your biofield radiates patterns that can be unconsciously detected by others, potentially making them feel more comfortable and open in your presence. Or think about how biofield coherence might affect your cognitive performance. When your electromagnetic patterns are chaotic due to stress or emotional turbulence, it becomes harder to think clearly, make good decisions, or access your creative potential. But when your biofield is coherent, your entire nervous system operates more efficiently, potentially enhancing everything from memory and learning to intuitive insight. This research also opens up new perspectives on healing and well-being. Traditional medicine has always recognized that emotional states influence physical health, but biofield research provides potential mechanisms for understanding how this influence operates. Some interpretations suggest that chronic emotional stress might create persistent disruptions in biofield coherence that eventually manifest as physical symptoms or disease. Conversely, practices that promote electromagnetic coherence might support the body's natural healing processes. This doesn't mean that biofield work can cure serious medical conditions, but rather that optimizing your electromagnetic patterns might complement conventional medical treatment by supporting your overall resilience and recovery capacity. As we prepare to explore the quantum dimensions of consciousness and reality in our next section, I want you to sit with this remarkable realization. You are not just a biological machine operating according to purely mechanical principles. You are an electromagnetic being whose thoughts, emotions, and intentions create measurable patterns in the energy field that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical form. Your biofield is constantly in conversation with the electromagnetic environment around you, influenced by everything from the Earth's magnetic field to the coherence patterns of other living beings in your vicinity. You exist within a vast web of energetic relationships that connect you to the larger fabric of existence in ways both subtle and profound. In our next exploration, we'll dive deeper into the quantum mechanical aspects of consciousness and examine how the observer effect in physics might relate to the way your awareness influences your experience of reality. We'll also look at cutting-edge research on quantum biology and consider what it might mean for our understanding of the relationship between mind and matter. But for now, simply rest in the wonder of your own electromagnetic nature. As your heart beats, it's generating waves of energy that extend outward from your body, carrying information about your emotional state into the space around you. As you breathe, you're participating in the ancient dance of energy exchange that connects all living systems. You are both an individual expression of consciousness and an integral part of the larger electromagnetic symphony that some say underlies all existence. The quantum world operates by rules so strange that they seem to defy common sense. Yet these same principles might offer profound insights into the nature of consciousness itself. When physicists first discovered that subatomic particles exist in multiple states simultaneously, until the moment of observation, they uncovered what many consider to be the most puzzling aspect of reality: the relationship between awareness and the physical world. This phenomenon, known as quantum superposition, suggests that particles don't have definite properties until they're measured. An electron doesn't spin in a particular direction, a photon doesn't have a specific polarization, and a particle doesn't occupy a fixed position until some form of measurement or observation causes what physicists call wave function collapse. The mathematics work perfectly. The predictions are incredibly accurate, yet the implications remain deeply mysterious. Now, before we venture further into this quantum landscape, it's important to understand that there's no scientific consensus on whether quantum effects directly influence human consciousness or everyday reality. What we can explore, however, are the fascinating parallels between quantum behavior and the nature of awareness itself, along with the growing field of quantum biology that's revealing quantum processes within living systems. Take a moment to consider your own experience of consciousness right now. As you listen to these words, countless thoughts and sensations are arising and passing away in your awareness. Some thoughts capture your attention, while others drift by unnoticed. Your consciousness seems to exist in a kind of superposition of potential experiences until the moment you focus your attention on something specific, causing a particular thought or sensation to become your primary experience. This isn't to suggest that human consciousness operates according to quantum mechanical principles, but rather that there are intriguing structural similarities between the way quantum systems behave and the way awareness seems to function. Both involve the emergence of definite experiences from fields of possibility. Both are influenced by the act of observation or attention, and both challenge our conventional understanding of the relationship between subject and object. Recent research in quantum biology has revealed that quantum effects do indeed play crucial roles in biological processes. The efficiency of photosynthesis, for instance, appears to depend on quantum coherence, allowing energy to explore multiple pathways simultaneously before settling on the most efficient route. Some migratory birds seem to navigate using quantum entanglement in specialized proteins within their eyes, creating a kind of biological compass that's sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field. These discoveries suggest that the boundary between the quantum world and biological reality is far more permeable than scientists once believed. While this doesn't prove that consciousness itself operates according to quantum principles, it does open up fascinating questions about the relationship between quantum processes and the emergence of complex biological phenomena, including potentially consciousness itself. Consider how your attention seems to work. When you're deeply absorbed in a beautiful piece of music or a captivating conversation, your consciousness becomes coherent and focused. Distracting thoughts fade into the background, and you experience a kind of mental clarity that feels qualitatively different from your normal scattered state of mind. Some researchers have speculated that this focusing of attention might involve quantum-like processes in the brain, though this remains highly theoretical. The pioneering physicist David Bohm proposed that consciousness and matter might both emerge from what he called the implicate order, a deeper level of reality where everything exists in a state of enfolded wholeness. According to this view, which remains speculative, the separation between mind and matter that we experience in everyday life might be more apparent than real, with both arising from the same underlying quantum field of potential. As you contemplate this possibility, notice how it might shift your understanding of your relationship to the world around you. If consciousness and matter both emerge from the same fundamental substrate, then perhaps the ancient intuition that mind and universe are intimately connected has some basis in the structure of reality itself. This doesn't mean you can think your way to a new car or manifest your desires through positive thinking, but it might suggest a more subtle and profound interconnection between awareness and the physical world. The observer effect in quantum mechanics raises equally fascinating questions about the role of consciousness in physical processes. When a quantum system is measured, It transitions from a state of multiple possibilities to a single, definite outcome. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness might play a special role in this transition, though most physicists favor explanations that don't require conscious observers. What we can say with more confidence is that consciousness appears to have a unique relationship to information. When you observe something, whether it's a quantum measurement or simply noticing your breath, you're extracting information from your environment and integrating it into your ongoing experience. This process of information integration might be more fundamental to the nature of reality than we typically realize. The quantum vacuum, that supposedly empty space between particles, turns out to be teeming with activity at the smallest scales. Virtual particles constantly pop in and out of existence, creating what physicists call zero-point energy fluctuations. Some speculative theories propose that consciousness might somehow interact with these vacuum fluctuations, though this remains far from proven and is not accepted by mainstream science. What's particularly intriguing is how these quantum phenomena might relate to the field of consciousness itself. Many contemplative traditions describe awareness as a kind of space or field within which all experiences arise and pass away. This awareness space seems to have qualities remarkably similar to the quantum vacuum. It appears empty, yet is full of potential. It seems unchanging, yet gives rise to constant activity, and it provides the context within which all phenomena manifest. Take a breath and notice the space of awareness in which your current experience is occurring. Your thoughts arise within this space, your emotions move through it, your sensations appear and dissolve within it, yet the awareness itself remains present and unchanging. Some interpretations suggest this might offer clues about the fundamental nature of consciousness and its relationship to the quantum field that underlies physical reality, though this connection remains speculative. The phenomenon of quantum entanglement, where particles become correlated in ways that seem to transcend space and time, has captured the imagination of both scientists and philosophers. When two particles become entangled, measuring one instantly influences the state of the other, regardless of the distance separating them. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance, yet experiments have repeatedly confirmed that entanglement is a real feature of quantum systems. Some researchers have wondered whether consciousness might involve similar non-local correlations, though there's no scientific evidence for quantum entanglement operating in human brains or between human minds. What we can explore, however, is the experiential sense of connection that sometimes emerges between people during moments of deep empathy, shared meditation, or intimate conversation. While these experiences don't involve quantum entanglement in any literal sense, they might offer insights into the interconnected nature of consciousness itself. Consider those rare moments when you feel deeply attuned to another person, when communication seems to flow effortlessly and understanding emerges without words. While neuroscience can explain much of this through mirror neurons and unconscious behavioral synchronization, the subjective experience often feels like something more profound is happening. Some interpretations suggest these moments might reflect a deeper truth about the nature of consciousness, one that resonates with the quantum understanding of reality as fundamentally interconnected. The quantum concept of complementarity, the idea that particles can exhibit seemingly contradictory properties depending on how they're observed, might also offer insights into the nature of consciousness. Just as light can behave as either a wave or a particle depending on the experimental setup, consciousness seems to exhibit different properties depending on how we direct our attention. When you focus intently on a specific object or thought, consciousness appears concentrated and particular. But when you relax your focus and simply rest in open awareness, consciousness seems to become more spacious and universal. Both experiences are valid, yet they seem to reveal different aspects of what consciousness actually is. This isn't a perfect analogy to quantum complementarity, but it suggests similar principles might apply to understanding the nature of awareness itself. As you sit with these ideas, imagine how this quantum perspective might influence your understanding of meditation and contemplative practice. Many traditional meditation instructions involve learning to observe your thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them, allowing them to arise and pass away naturally within the field of awareness. Some interpretations suggest this practice might cultivate a kind of mental coherence, analogous to the coherent states that emerge in certain quantum systems. When quantum systems achieve coherence, individual particles begin to behave as a unified whole, creating phenomena like superconductivity and laser light. While human consciousness doesn't operate according to quantum mechanical principles in any direct sense, some researchers have speculated that states of deep meditation might involve similar kinds of neural coherence, where different brain regions begin to synchronize their activity in beneficial ways. The practice of mindfulness, paying gentle attention to present moment experience without judgment, might be understood as a kind of conscious observation that influences the quality of your mental states. Just as quantum observation affects the behavior of subatomic particles, mindful observation seems to affect the nature of your thoughts and emotions, often making them less reactive and more workable. This doesn't mean that mindfulness operates through quantum mechanisms, but rather that both processes involve the transformative power of conscious attention. When you observe your breath with mindful awareness, you're not collapsing wave functions or manipulating quantum fields, but you are engaging in a fundamental process of conscious observation that can profoundly influence your experience of reality. Some theoretical physicists have proposed that consciousness might emerge from quantum processes occurring within the microtubules of brain cells, tiny structures that help maintain cellular organization. This orchestrated objective reduction theory, while controversial and unproven, suggests that consciousness might arise from quantum computations happening at the cellular level within neurons. Whether or not this specific theory proves correct, it points toward a deeper question about the relationship between quantum processes and the emergence of complex phenomena like consciousness, creativity, and subjective experience. Even if consciousness doesn't directly operate according to quantum principles, it might still be influenced by quantum processes occurring within the biological substrate of the brain. As we prepare to explore the practical implications of these quantum insights for understanding consciousness and contemplative practice, take a moment to appreciate the profound mystery of your own awareness. The fact that you can contemplate these ideas, hold them in consciousness, and reflect on their meaning represents one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the known universe. Consciousness remains perhaps the deepest puzzle in science, and quantum physics might offer important clues for solving it. In our next section, we'll examine how these quantum perspectives might inform contemplative practices and explore specific techniques that some researchers believe might optimize the coherence of consciousness itself. We'll also look at the growing field of consciousness research and consider what it might reveal about the nature of subjective experience and its relationship to the physical world. But for now, simply rest in the wonder of being a conscious being in a quantum universe. As you breathe, you're participating in the ancient dance between awareness and phenomena, between the observer and the observed, between the field of consciousness and the endless possibilities that emerge within it. You are both a product of this quantum reality and a conscious participant in its ongoing unfolding. The intersection of quantum physics and consciousness research has given birth to a fascinating new field of inquiry that explores how the principles discovered at the smallest scales of reality might inform our understanding of the largest questions about mind and experience. While much of this work remains speculative, some researchers are beginning to develop practical approaches to consciousness that draw inspiration from quantum mechanical insights. One of the most intriguing areas of investigation involves what some scientists call quantum cognition, though it's important to note that this doesn't necessarily mean the brain operates as a quantum computer. Instead, researchers are exploring whether the mathematical frameworks used to describe quantum systems might also provide useful models for understanding how human judgment, decision-making, and perception actually work. Traditional cognitive science has often assumed that human thinking follows classical logic, but experimental evidence suggests that our minds frequently violate these classical assumptions in ways that mirror quantum behavior. For instance, the order in which you consider different options can influence your final decision, much like how the sequence of quantum measurements affects the outcome of an experiment. Consider how your preferences sometimes seem to exist in a kind of superposition until you're forced to choose. You might simultaneously want both adventure and security, both solitude and connection, both stability and change. It's only when circumstances require a decision that one preference becomes dominant, temporarily collapsing the superposition of possibilities into a specific choice. This quantum-inspired view of cognition doesn't suggest that your brain contains actual qubits or quantum computers, but rather that the dynamics of consciousness might be better understood through quantum mathematical frameworks than through classical computational models. Some interpretations propose that this could explain phenomena like creativity, intuition, and the non-linear emergence of insights that seem to arise from nowhere. As you reflect on your own creative process, you might notice how new ideas often emerge, not through logical analysis, but through a kind of quantum leap of understanding. You might struggle with a problem for days, then suddenly wake up with a solution that seems to have organized itself spontaneously in the depths of your consciousness. While we don't fully understand these processes, quantum-inspired models of cognition might offer new ways of thinking about how consciousness generates novel solutions and insights. The field of quantum biology has revealed that living systems have evolved sophisticated mechanisms for maintaining quantum coherence, even in warm, noisy biological environments. This discovery has prompted some researchers to investigate whether similar quantum processes might occur in neural tissue, potentially contributing to the emergence of consciousness itself. While this research remains highly speculative, some studies have found evidence of quantum-like effects in certain biological molecules that are present in brain cells. Microtubules, the structural elements that help maintain the shape and organization of neurons, contain arrangements of proteins that some researchers believe might support quantum computations, though this hypothesis remains controversial within the scientific community. What's less controversial is the growing recognition that consciousness involves forms of information processing that are remarkably sophisticated and potentially unlike anything achieved by classical computers. The binding problem in neuroscience, for instance, asks how the brain integrates information from different sensory modalities and cognitive processes into the unified experience of consciousness that you're having right now. Take a moment to notice the seamless integration of different elements in your current experience. You're simultaneously aware of sounds, perhaps some background noise or music, visual information if your eyes are open, bodily sensations, like the feeling of sitting or lying down, thoughts about the ideas you're hearing, and emotions responding to the content. All of these different streams of information are somehow woven together into a single, coherent experience of being you in this moment. This binding of disparate information into unified conscious experience represents one of the most profound puzzles in neuroscience. Some researchers have proposed that quantum coherence might play a role in this process, allowing different brain regions to synchronize their activity in ways that classical neural networks cannot fully explain. However, this remains a speculative hypothesis rather than established scientific fact. What we can say with greater confidence is that consciousness appears to involve the generation of what researchers call integrated information, where different parts of a system share information in ways that create emergent properties not present in the individual components. This integration seems to occur across multiple scales simultaneously, from the molecular level within individual neurons to the large-scale networks that connect different brain regions. The quantum physicist John Wheeler proposed that information, rather than matter or energy, might be the fundamental constituent of reality. His famous phrase, "it from bit," suggested that physical phenomena might ultimately emerge from information processing rather than the other way around. While this remains a speculative idea, it has profound implications for understanding the relationship between consciousness and physical reality. If information is indeed fundamental to the universe, then consciousness, as perhaps the most sophisticated information processing system we know of, might occupy a special place in the cosmic order. This doesn't mean consciousness creates reality in any magical sense, but it might suggest that the evolution of complex information processing systems like brains represents a fundamental trend in the universe's development. Some researchers have begun exploring what they call the information integration theory of consciousness, which proposes that consciousness corresponds to integrated information in a system. According to this view, any system that integrates information in sufficiently complex ways would have some form of conscious experience, though this consciousness might be very different from human awareness. This theory, while still debated, offers a potential bridge between the subjective nature of consciousness and the objective measurements of information processing. It suggests that consciousness isn't an all-or-nothing property, but rather exists on a spectrum, with different systems exhibiting different degrees and qualities of conscious experience based on their information integration capabilities. As you contemplate this possibility, consider how it might change your relationship to the world around you. If consciousness emerges from information integration, then perhaps other complex systems, from ecosystems to social networks to the global internet, might possess their own forms of awareness. This remains highly speculative, but it points toward a universe that might be far more conscious than we typically imagine. The practical implications of these quantum-inspired approaches to consciousness are beginning to emerge in the field of contemplative neuroscience. Researchers are investigating how traditional meditation practices might optimize the coherence and integration of information processing in the brain, potentially leading to enhanced well-being and expanded awareness. Some studies have found that experienced meditators show increased synchronization between different brain regions, suggesting that contemplative practices might enhance the kind of neural coherence that some researchers associate with optimal consciousness. While we can't definitively say these effects involve quantum processes, they do suggest that consciousness is far more malleable and trainable than previously believed. The practice of meditation, from this perspective, might be understood as a technology for optimizing consciousness itself. By learning to stabilize attention, cultivate specific mental states, and observe the dynamics of awareness with precision, contemplatives might be developing skills that enhance the fundamental information processing capabilities of their minds. Consider how different meditation practices might influence the quantum-like properties of consciousness. Focused attention meditation, where you concentrate on a single object like the breath, might be analogous to creating coherent states in consciousness, where mental activity becomes highly organized around a particular focus. Open awareness meditation, where you simply rest in spacious attention without focusing on any particular object, might be more like maintaining a superposition of potential experiences without collapsing into any specific state. These analogies shouldn't be taken too literally, as there's no direct evidence that meditation involves actual quantum processes. However, they might provide useful frameworks for understanding how different contemplative practices affect the quality and structure of conscious experience. Some researchers have even begun developing meditation techniques specifically designed to enhance the coherence and integration of consciousness based on insights from quantum physics and information theory. The field of consciousness research is also exploring how quantum principles might inform our understanding of the relationship between individual minds and collective consciousness. While there's no scientific evidence for quantum entanglement between human brains, some researchers are investigating whether groups of people engaged in synchronized activities might exhibit collective information processing capabilities that transcend individual cognitive limitations. Studies of group meditation, for instance, have found correlations between the coherence of individual practitioners and various measures of social harmony in the surrounding community. Though these findings remain controversial and require further investigation, some interpretations suggest that consciousness might have non-local properties analogous to quantum entanglement, allowing information to be shared between minds in ways we don't yet understand. As we prepare to explore the implications of these ideas for practical applications in daily life, take a breath and consider how this quantum perspective on consciousness might influence your understanding of your own awareness. You're not just a classical computer processing information according to predetermined algorithms. You're a quantum-inspired information processing system capable of coherence, superposition, and integration in ways that might connect you to the deepest principles governing reality itself. In our next section, we'll examine specific practices and techniques that draw inspiration from quantum principles to enhance consciousness and well-being. We'll explore how insights from quantum physics might inform approaches to creativity, problem-solving, and personal transformation. We'll also consider what these developments might mean for the future of human consciousness and our understanding of our place in the quantum universe. But for now, simply rest in the recognition that your consciousness represents one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the known universe. As you experience these thoughts and ideas arising in awareness, you're participating in the same fundamental processes that govern the behavior of quantum systems at the smallest scales of reality. You are both a product of the quantum universe and a conscious witness to its unfolding mystery. The implications of viewing consciousness through a quantum lens extend far beyond theoretical physics and neuroscience into the realm of practical applications that might transform how we approach creativity, healing, and personal development. While we must be careful not to make claims that exceed the current scientific evidence, we can explore how quantum-inspired principles might inform new approaches to optimizing human potential. One of the most promising areas involves what researchers call coherence-based practices, techniques designed to enhance the synchronization and integration of different mental processes. Drawing inspiration from quantum coherence, where particles coordinate their behavior to create emergent phenomena like superconductivity, some practitioners are developing methods to cultivate similar coordination within consciousness itself. The HeartMath Institute's coherence techniques, which we touched on earlier, represent one scientifically validated approach to creating more coherent patterns in psychophysiological processes. By synchronizing breathing, heart rhythm, and emotional states, practitioners can create what researchers call psychophysiological coherence, a state associated with improved cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and overall well-being. From a quantum-inspired perspective, this coherence might be understood as creating more integrated and harmonious information processing throughout the mind-body system. While this doesn't involve literal quantum mechanics, the principles of coherence and integration that govern quantum systems might provide useful metaphors for understanding how to optimize consciousness for peak performance and well-being. Consider how you might apply coherence principles to your own daily experience. When you're feeling scattered or overwhelmed, you could experiment with practices that bring different aspects of your experience into greater alignment. This might involve synchronizing your breathing with your heartbeat, coordinating your movements with your breath, or simply taking time to integrate your thoughts and emotions into a more coherent whole. The quantum principle of superposition, where particles exist in multiple states simultaneously, has inspired new approaches to creativity and problem solving. Some practitioners suggest that by learning to hold multiple possibilities in awareness without immediately collapsing into a single solution, you might access more creative and innovative responses to challenges. This approach involves cultivating what some researchers call cognitive superposition, the ability to maintain awareness of multiple perspectives, possibilities, or solutions simultaneously. Rather than immediately judging ideas as good or bad, right or wrong, you learn to hold them in a kind of mental superposition, allowing new combinations and insights to emerge naturally. As you consider a current challenge or question in your life, experiment with this superposition approach. Instead of immediately seeking the right answer or solution, allow yourself to hold multiple possibilities simultaneously. Notice how this feels different from your normal problem-solving approach. Some practitioners report that this quantum-inspired method leads to more creative and unexpected solutions, though individual results may vary. The quantum concept of entanglement has inspired explorations of what some researchers call consciousness entanglement, though it's crucial to emphasize that this doesn't involve actual quantum entanglement between minds. Instead, it refers to practices designed to enhance empathy, compassion, and interpersonal connection through cultivating states of consciousness that feel more interconnected and less separate. Some meditation traditions have always recognized that deep states of awareness can lead to experiences of profound connection with others and with the natural world. While these experiences don't involve quantum entanglement in any literal sense, they might reflect deeper truths about the interconnected nature of consciousness and reality that resonate with quantum insights about the fundamental unity underlying apparent separateness. The observer effect in quantum mechanics has prompted new approaches to mindfulness and self-observation. Just as conscious observation appears to influence quantum systems, mindful observation of your own mental and emotional states can profoundly influence their behavior. This isn't because consciousness operates according to quantum principles, but because the act of aware attention seems to have transformative effects on whatever it touches. When you observe your breath with mindful attention, the quality of your breathing often naturally improves. When you observe your emotions with acceptance rather than resistance, they often become less intense and more workable. When you observe your thoughts without immediately believing or rejecting them, they often become more spacious and less compulsive. Take a moment right now to experiment with this observer effect in your own experience. Choose something to observe mindfully, perhaps your breath, a physical sensation, or even the quality of your attention itself. Notice how the act of conscious observation influences what you're observing. This demonstrates a practical application of observer effect principles that doesn't require quantum mechanics but might share similar underlying dynamics. The quantum vacuum, that apparently empty space that's actually teeming with potential energy, has inspired approaches to accessing what some practitioners call the creative vacuum of consciousness. This involves learning to rest in states of open, spacious awareness, where new insights and solutions can emerge spontaneously from the apparent emptiness of not knowing. Many creative breakthroughs seem to emerge not from intense thinking, but from states of relaxed receptivity, where the mind becomes like the quantum vacuum, apparently empty yet full of creative potential. Some artists, scientists, and contemplatives have learned to cultivate these vacuum-like states of consciousness as a source of inspiration and insight. You might experiment with accessing this creative vacuum by allowing yourself to rest in periods of not knowing, not thinking, and not trying. Instead of constantly filling your mental space with activity, create opportunities for spaciousness and receptivity. Some practitioners find that their most creative insights emerge from these apparently empty but potentially rich states of consciousness. The field of quantum biology has revealed that living systems maintain quantum coherence through what physicists call decoherence-resistant mechanisms. These biological quantum effects don't get disrupted by environmental noise because evolution has created sophisticated ways of protecting quantum processes within warm, wet, noisy biological systems. This has inspired interest in whether similar principles might apply to consciousness, suggesting that certain mental practices might help maintain coherent states of awareness, even in the midst of challenging circumstances. While this remains speculative, some contemplatives report that consistent practice helps them maintain equanimity and clarity even during difficult situations. Consider how you might develop decoherence resistance in your own consciousness. This could involve building practices that help you maintain inner stability regardless of external circumstances, cultivating mental qualities like equanimity that remain steady amid changing conditions, or developing the ability to quickly return to coherent states after being disturbed by stress or challenge. The quantum measurement problem, the puzzle of how definite outcomes emerge from quantum possibilities, has inspired new approaches to decision-making and manifestation practices. Some practitioners suggest that by learning to hold intentions and goals in a superposition-like state without forcing specific outcomes, you might allow optimal solutions to emerge naturally through a process analogous to quantum measurement. This approach involves setting clear intentions while remaining open to how they might manifest, much like how quantum systems exist in superposition until measurement reveals a specific outcome. While this doesn't involve actual quantum mechanics, it might represent a practical application of quantum-inspired principles to personal development and goal achievement. As you consider your own goals and intentions, experiment with holding them in this superposition-like state. Set clear intentions for what you want to create or achieve, but remain open to how these intentions might manifest in unexpected ways. Some practitioners find this approach less stressful and more effective than trying to control specific outcomes through force or manipulation. The growing field of quantum-inspired therapeutics is exploring how insights from quantum physics might inform new approaches to healing and wellness. While these applications don't typically involve actual quantum effects, they draw on quantum principles like coherence, integration, and information processing to develop more holistic and effective interventions. Some researchers are investigating whether therapeutic approaches that enhance the coherence and integration of information processing throughout the mind-body system might be more effective than treatments that focus on isolated symptoms or problems. This quantum-inspired perspective suggests that healing might involve optimizing the overall information processing capabilities of the entire person rather than just addressing specific issues, the entire person, rather than isolated parts. This holistic approach resonates with ancient healing traditions that have always recognized the interconnected nature of mind, body, and spirit, but it's now finding support from quantum-inspired models of consciousness and information processing. Some practitioners are developing therapeutic techniques that work with the coherence of the entire system rather than focusing solely on symptom reduction. Consider how this perspective might influence your approach to your own health and well-being. Rather than viewing challenges as isolated problems to be fixed, you might begin to see them as opportunities to enhance the overall coherence and integration of your entire system. This doesn't mean ignoring specific symptoms or avoiding medical treatment, but rather approaching healing from a more integrated perspective that recognizes the quantum-like interconnectedness of all aspects of your experience. The quantum principle of non-locality, where particles can instantaneously influence each other regardless of distance, has inspired explorations of what some practitioners call non-local awareness. While human consciousness doesn't exhibit quantum non-locality in any literal sense, some contemplative traditions have always recognized that awareness itself seems to transcend the normal boundaries of space and time. During deep meditation or contemplative states, practitioners sometimes report experiences of expanded awareness that seem to extend beyond the usual boundaries of personal identity and individual consciousness. While these experiences don't involve quantum entanglement, they might reflect deeper aspects of consciousness that resonate with the non-local properties discovered in quantum systems. The phenomenon of quantum tunneling, where particles pass through barriers that should be insurmountable according to classical physics, has inspired approaches to working with psychological barriers and limitations. Some practitioners suggest that just as quantum particles can tunnel through energy barriers, consciousness might be able to move through psychological barriers that seem impossible to overcome through normal means. This quantum-inspired approach to personal transformation involves working with psychological blocks and limitations not by trying to force your way through them, but by finding ways to tunnel around or through them using the inherent flexibility and creativity of consciousness itself. While this doesn't involve actual quantum mechanics, it might represent a useful metaphor for understanding how consciousness can sometimes transcend apparent limitations in unexpected ways. As you reflect on areas of your life where you feel stuck or limited, consider how a quantum tunneling approach might offer new possibilities. Instead of trying to overcome obstacles through force or willpower, you might explore ways to move around or through them using the creative and flexible aspects of your awareness. Sometimes the most profound transformations occur not through direct effort, but through subtle shifts in perspective or understanding. The quantum field theory concept of virtual particles, which continuously appear and disappear in the quantum vacuum, has inspired interest in what some researchers call virtual states of consciousness. These might be understood as subtle mental states or potentials that exist just below the threshold of ordinary awareness but can be accessed and developed through appropriate practices. Many contemplative traditions have recognized the existence of subtle states of consciousness that are not normally accessible but can be cultivated through meditation and other practices. While these don't involve literal virtual particles, the quantum metaphor might provide useful frameworks for understanding how consciousness can access expanded states and capabilities that aren't usually available in ordinary waking awareness. The emerging field of quantum information theory has implications for understanding how consciousness processes and integrates information. Some researchers propose that consciousness might operate according to quantum information principles, allowing for forms of information processing that are fundamentally different from classical computation. While this remains highly speculative, it suggests that human consciousness might be capable of information processing feats that exceed the capabilities of classical computers. This could help explain phenomena like intuition, creativity, and insight that seem to involve non-algorithmic forms of information processing. Take a moment to consider your own experiences of insight and intuition. These often involve sudden reorganizations of information that don't follow logical, step-by-step processes. Instead, solutions seem to emerge spontaneously from the integration of multiple pieces of information in ways that transcend normal analytical thinking. While we don't know if these processes involve quantum effects, they might share similar principles of non-linear information integration. As we begin to draw together these various threads of quantum-inspired approaches to consciousness and practical application, it's worth reflecting on what this perspective might mean for human potential and the future of consciousness development. While much of this work remains speculative and requires further research, it points toward possibilities for understanding and optimizing consciousness that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. The quantum view suggests that consciousness might be far more malleable, creative, and interconnected than traditionally assumed. Rather than being passive observers of reality, we might be active participants in its ongoing creation through the quality of our attention, intention, and awareness. This doesn't mean we can manifest reality through wishful thinking, but it might suggest more subtle forms of influence and participation than classical science has recognized. The practical implications extend into every area of human experience, from health and healing to creativity and problem solving, from interpersonal relationships to spiritual development. By understanding consciousness as a quantum-like phenomenon capable of coherent superposition and integration, we might develop more effective approaches to optimizing human potential and well-being. As you contemplate these possibilities, remember that you don't need to understand quantum mechanics to benefit from quantum-inspired approaches to consciousness. The principles of coherence, integration, observation, and interconnection can be applied practically regardless of their theoretical foundations. What matters is whether these approaches enhance your experience and help you access greater creativity, clarity, and well-being. The future of consciousness research might increasingly bridge the gap between subjective experience and objective measurement, between ancient wisdom and modern science, between individual development and collective transformation. While we're still in the early stages of this exploration, the quantum perspective offers unprecedented opportunities for understanding and developing human consciousness. As our exploration draws toward a close, take a moment to appreciate how far we've traveled together through these interconnected realms of electromagnetic fields, quantum phenomena, and consciousness research. We began by examining the measurable electromagnetic field generated by your heart, progressed through the mysterious quantum properties that might underlie biological processes, and arrived at practical applications that might enhance the coherence and creativity of consciousness itself. What emerges from this journey is a picture of human beings as far more sophisticated and interconnected than our normal everyday experience might suggest. You are simultaneously a biological electromagnetic generator, a quantum information processing system, and a conscious participant in the ongoing evolution of reality itself. These aren't separate aspects of who you are, but different perspectives on the same underlying phenomenon, the extraordinary mystery of conscious existence in a quantum universe. The scientific understanding of these phenomena continues to evolve rapidly, with new discoveries regularly challenging our assumptions about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to physical reality. What remains constant is the recognition that consciousness represents one of the deepest mysteries in science, one that might require entirely new frameworks to fully understand. Whether or not future research confirms the specific mechanisms we've explored tonight, the journey itself has value. By considering these possibilities, we expand our sense of what it means to be human, what consciousness might be capable of, and how we might participate more consciously in the ongoing creation of reality. We develop greater appreciation for the profound mystery of our own existence and the extraordinary capabilities that might lie dormant within ordinary awareness. As you prepare to rest or continue with your day, carry with you this expanded sense of your own nature. You are not just a collection of thoughts and sensations contained within the boundaries of your physical body. You are an electromagnetic being whose heart generates fields that extend outward into space, whose consciousness might operate according to principles that mirror the deepest laws of physics, and whose awareness participates in the ongoing dance between mind and reality. The practical applications we've discussed don't require you to believe in any particular theory about consciousness or quantum mechanics. They simply invite you to experiment with approaches that might enhance the coherence, creativity, and well-being of your own experience. Whether through heart coherence practices, quantum-inspired meditation techniques, or simply paying closer attention to the observer effect in your own awareness, you have opportunities to explore and develop your consciousness in ways that might surprise you. Remember that this exploration is ultimately about enhancing your capacity to live with greater wisdom, compassion, and effectiveness. The quantum perspective on consciousness isn't valuable because it's scientifically fashionable, but because it might offer practical tools for developing qualities that serve both your own well-being and that of the broader human community. As the boundaries between science and spirituality, between individual and collective, between mind and matter continue to blur in the light of new discoveries, we find ourselves living in an age of unprecedented opportunity for consciousness development. The ancient dream of understanding the relationship between awareness and reality is beginning to find expression through the sophisticated instruments and theories of modern science. This convergence doesn't diminish the mystery of consciousness, but rather reveals it to be even more profound and wonderful than we previously imagined. You are living in a universe where consciousness and quantum mechanics dance together in ways we're only beginning to understand, where your emotional states create measurable changes in electromagnetic fields, and where the quality of your attention might influence reality in subtle but significant ways. Consider for a moment the phenomenon that researchers call morphic resonance, a speculative concept proposed by biologist Rupert Sheldrake. While this remains unproven and is not accepted by mainstream science, the basic idea suggests that patterns of activity in nature might create invisible fields that influence similar patterns across space and time. Though controversial and lacking empirical support, this hypothesis echoes something that many people report experiencing in their daily lives. Have you ever noticed how certain ideas seem to emerge simultaneously in different places, as if they were somehow connected through invisible channels of influence? Or how skills that feel impossible to learn suddenly become accessible after you've watched someone demonstrate them with mastery? While these experiences could be explained through conventional means like parallel thinking or mirror neuron activation, some interpretations suggest they might reflect deeper patterns of information sharing that we don't yet understand. The field of consciousness research has begun investigating what some scientists call collective coherence phenomena, though it's important to emphasize that the mechanisms involved remain largely mysterious. Studies conducted by organizations like the Global Coherence Initiative have documented correlations between large-scale human events and variations in the Earth's electromagnetic field. Though these findings are preliminary and don't establish causal relationships, during moments of shared focus or emotional resonance, such as collective meditation events or significant global occurrences, some researchers have observed subtle but measurable changes in electromagnetic patterns across different monitoring stations worldwide. While these correlations don't prove that human consciousness directly influences planetary electromagnetic fields, they raise intriguing questions about the interconnected nature of consciousness and physical systems. As you contemplate this possibility, take a breath and consider your own experience of collective consciousness. Have you ever felt part of something larger during a live concert, a religious service, or a moment of shared silence? While neuroscience can explain much of this through social psychology and synchronized behavior, the subjective experience often feels like participation in a field of awareness that transcends individual boundaries. This brings us to one of the most fascinating frontiers in consciousness research, the study of what some scientists call extended mind phenomena. While the idea that consciousness might extend beyond the boundaries of individual brains remains speculative, some researchers are investigating whether certain forms of information processing might occur through interactions between minds and their environments in ways we don't yet understand. The extended mind hypothesis, while controversial, suggests that cognitive processes might sometimes involve resources that exist outside the skull, including tools, environments, and potentially other minds. Though this doesn't necessarily involve electromagnetic fields or quantum effects, it challenges our conventional understanding of where consciousness begins and ends. Consider how your smartphone has become an extension of your memory, storing information that you once would have carried in your biological memory systems. Or think about how your cognitive abilities change depending on your physical environment, social context, and available tools. Some interpretations suggest these examples might reflect a more fundamental truth about consciousness, that it might not be confined to individual brains, but might emerge from dynamic interactions between minds, bodies, and environments. The quantum physicist David Bohm spent much of his later career exploring a form of communication he believed might access career exploring what he called dialogue, a form collective intelligence beyond what individual minds could achieve alone. According to Bohm, when people engage in genuine dialogue without trying to convince each other or defend fixed positions, something remarkable can emerge. Insights and solutions that seem to arise from the group as a whole, rather than from any individual participant. This phenomenon, which Bohm connected to his understanding of quantum mechanics and the implicate order, suggests that consciousness might have collective dimensions that parallel the non-local properties discovered in quantum systems. While this remains a speculative interpretation rather than established science, it points toward possibilities for human collaboration and problem-solving that transcend normal individual limitations. Some research groups have begun investigating whether teams engaged in synchronized contemplative practices might exhibit enhanced collective problem-solving capabilities, though these studies remain in early stages and their results are not yet conclusive. The basic idea is that by creating coherent states of consciousness within individuals and then synchronizing these states across group members, it might be possible to access forms of collective intelligence that exceed the sum of individual contributions. As you reflect on your own experiences of group collaboration and collective creativity, notice whether there have been moments when solutions seem to emerge from the group itself, rather than from any particular person. While conventional psychology can explain much of this through group dynamics and social facilitation, the subjective experience sometimes suggests something more profound might be occurring. The field of contemplative neuroscience has made remarkable discoveries about the plasticity and trainability of consciousness itself. Long-term meditation practitioners show structural changes in brain regions associated with attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness, suggesting that consciousness can literally reshape the neural substrate that supports it. These findings provide scientific validation for claims that contemplatives have made for centuries, that awareness itself can be developed and refined through appropriate practices. But perhaps even more intriguing are studies showing that these consciousness-related brain changes might influence electromagnetic field patterns in ways that could potentially affect others nearby. While the mechanisms remain unclear and the effects are subtle, some research suggests that experienced contemplatives generate more coherent electromagnetic patterns that might unconsciously influence the physiological states of people in their vicinity. This research remains preliminary and controversial, but it opens fascinating questions about the social and collective dimensions of consciousness development. If individual consciousness training can create more coherent electromagnetic patterns, and if these patterns can influence others through field interactions, then contemplative practice might have social benefits that extend far beyond personal development. Consider the atmosphere in spaces where experienced contemplatives gather regularly. Many people report feeling more peaceful, clear, or emotionally balanced in such environments, even if they're not participating directly in contemplative practices themselves. While multiple factors could explain these experiences, electromagnetic field coherence represents one potential contributing mechanism. The intersection of consciousness research and environmental science has led to investigations of what some researchers call eco-consciousness, the possibility that human consciousness might interact with natural systems in ways that go beyond conventional ecological relationships. While this remains highly speculative and lacks strong scientific support, some preliminary studies have suggested correlations between human contemplative activities and changes in local environmental parameters. Research groups have documented cases where sustained meditation practice in particular locations seem to correlate with improvements in local air quality, water purity, or even crime rates in surrounding communities. Though these findings remain controversial and have not been consistently replicated, the proposed mechanisms are unclear and could involve conventional factors like increased environmental awareness and community engagement, rather than direct consciousness-environment interactions. Nevertheless, these studies reflect a growing recognition that consciousness might not exist in isolation from the broader ecological systems within which it emerges. Your thoughts and emotions don't occur in a vacuum. They arise within complex webs of relationship that include other humans, natural systems, and potentially the planet itself. The Gaia hypothesis, proposed by scientist James Lovelock, suggests that Earth functions as a self-regulating system where biological and physical processes interact to maintain conditions suitable for life. While this doesn't necessarily involve consciousness in any direct sense, some interpretations propose that human awareness might participate in this planetary self-regulation through mechanisms we don't yet understand. As you sit here now, breathing air that has been processed by plants and other organisms, drinking water that has circulated through countless biological and geological systems, eating food that connects you to soil organisms and photosynthetic processes. Consider how your consciousness emerges from and participates in these vast networks of interconnection. The field of quantum biology continues to reveal quantum effects operating within living systems under conditions that were once thought to make quantum coherence impossible. These discoveries suggest that life might have evolved sophisticated mechanisms for utilizing quantum properties to optimize biological processes, from energy transfer in photosynthesis to navigation in migratory animals. Some researchers have begun investigating whether similar quantum biological effects might occur within neural tissue, potentially contributing to information processing capabilities that exceed what classical neuroscience would predict. While this research remains highly speculative and controversial, it raises intriguing questions about whether consciousness might involve quantum biological processes that we're only beginning to understand. The phenomenon of quantum entanglement between biological molecules has been documented in certain photosynthetic systems, where entangled particles appear to explore multiple energy transfer pathways simultaneously before settling on the most efficient route. While there's no evidence for quantum entanglement in human brains, the discovery of biological quantum effects suggests that the boundary between quantum and classical biology might be more permeable than previously assumed. Consider how this might relate to experiences of intuition or sudden insight that seem to involve non-linear information processing. While we can't definitively say these phenomena involve quantum effects, They might reflect information processing capabilities that transcend normal analytical thinking in ways that parallel quantum computational processes. The study of savant syndrome, where individuals with developmental disabilities sometimes exhibit extraordinary abilities in specific domains, has revealed forms of information processing that challenge conventional understanding of human cognitive limitations. Some savants can perform complex mathematical calculations instantaneously, memorize vast amounts of information after single exposures, or create detailed artistic representations with photographic accuracy. These abilities suggest that human consciousness might have access to information processing capabilities that are normally inhibited or inaccessible, but can sometimes be unleashed under specific conditions. While the mechanisms involved remain unclear, some researchers have speculated about whether quantum effects in neural tissue might contribute to these extraordinary cognitive phenomena, though this remains unproven. The field of parapsychology has investigated claims about psychic phenomena like telepathy, clairvoyance, and precognition for over a century, with mixed and controversial results. While most mainstream scientists remain skeptical about these phenomena, some research suggests that under carefully controlled laboratory conditions, statistical anomalies might occur that are difficult to explain through conventional means. The relationship between parapsychological research and quantum physics remains contentious, with some researchers proposing that quantum non-locality might provide mechanisms for PSI phenomena, while others argue that quantum effects cannot account for the claimed observations. What's clear is that consciousness continues to exhibit properties that challenge our understanding and suggest capabilities we don't yet comprehend. As you consider these various frontiers of consciousness research, remember that science progresses through careful investigation of anomalous phenomena that don't fit existing paradigms. Many discoveries that are now accepted as scientific fact were once considered impossible or ridiculous by the established scientific community. The investigation of consciousness itself represents one of the greatest challenges facing modern science. Unlike other phenomena that can be observed objectively from the outside, consciousness is inherently subjective and can only be studied from within the very awareness we're trying to understand. This creates unique methodological challenges that require innovative approaches bridging first-person experience and third-person measurement. Contemplative research traditions have developed sophisticated methods for investigating consciousness from the inside, using techniques like meditation to explore the structure and dynamics of awareness with remarkable precision. While these investigations don't follow conventional scientific protocols, they've generated detailed maps of consciousness that are now being validated and extended through modern neuroscience research. The integration of contemplative and scientific approaches to consciousness research represents one of the most promising developments in this field. By combining the precision of first-person contemplative investigation with the rigor of scientific measurement, researchers are beginning to develop more complete pictures of consciousness that honor both its subjective and objective dimensions. Consider your own capacity for investigating consciousness from within through practices like mindfulness or self-reflection. While you might not have access to sophisticated laboratory equipment, you have direct access to the phenomenon itself through your own awareness. This makes you both a subject and a researcher in the ongoing investigation of consciousness. The future of consciousness research might increasingly recognize that understanding awareness requires participation rather than just observation, engagement rather than just analysis. As you develop greater familiarity with the dynamics of your own consciousness through contemplative practice, you contribute to the collective human understanding of what consciousness is and what it might be capable of. The practical implications of consciousness research extend into every domain of human activity, from education and healthcare to business and governance. As we develop better understanding of how consciousness operates and how it can be optimized, we create opportunities for enhancing human performance and well-being in ways that were previously unimaginable. Educational approaches that incorporate contemplative practices and consciousness development are showing promising results for improving attention, emotional regulation, and learning capacity in students of all ages. Healthcare interventions that work with consciousness and biofield coherence are being investigated as complementary approaches to conventional medical treatment. Though these remain experimental and should not replace standard medical care, business organizations are beginning to explore how consciousness-based practices might enhance creativity, collaboration, and decision-making among teams and leaders. While the mechanisms involved remain unclear, some companies report improvements in workplace culture and performance when employees engage in contemplative practices designed to enhance consciousness coherence. As you contemplate these various applications, consider how a deeper understanding of consciousness might influence your own approach to learning, health, work, and relationships. Even if the more speculative aspects of consciousness research don't prove correct, the practical benefits of developing greater awareness, emotional coherence, and mental clarity are well documented and accessible to anyone willing to engage in appropriate practices. The journey we've taken together through the landscapes of electromagnetic fields, quantum phenomena, and consciousness research reveals a picture of human beings as far more sophisticated and interconnected than our everyday experience might suggest. You are simultaneously a biological electromagnetic generator, a complex information processing system, and a conscious participant in the ongoing evolution of awareness itself. The scientific understanding of these phenomena continues to evolve rapidly, with new discoveries regularly expanding our sense of what consciousness might be and what it might be capable of. What remains constant is the recognition that consciousness represents one of the deepest mysteries in existence, one that might require entirely new ways of thinking to fully comprehend. Whether or not future research confirms the specific mechanisms we've explored tonight, the journey itself has value in expanding our appreciation for the profound mystery of conscious existence and the extraordinary potential that might lie dormant within ordinary awareness. By considering these possibilities, we develop greater reverence for the miracle of consciousness and greater motivation to develop our own awareness in service of wisdom and compassion. As you prepare to rest or continue with your day, carry with you this expanded sense of your own nature and possibilities. You are not merely a collection of thoughts and sensations contained within the boundaries of your physical body, but a dynamic pattern of consciousness participating in the larger symphony of awareness that some say underlies all existence. The practical approaches we've discussed don't require you to believe in any particular theory about consciousness or quantum mechanics, but simply invite you to experiment with practices that might enhance the coherence, creativity, and well-being of your own experience. Through heart coherence techniques, quantum-inspired contemplative practices, or simply paying closer attention to the quality of your own awareness, you have opportunities to explore and develop consciousness in ways that might surprise and delight you. Remember that this exploration is ultimately about enhancing your capacity to live with greater wisdom, compassion, and effectiveness in the world. The insights we've shared aren't valuable because they're scientifically fashionable or philosophically sophisticated, but because they might offer practical tools for developing qualities that serve both your own flourishing and that of the broader community of life. As the boundaries between science and spirituality, between individual and collective, between mind and matter continue to dissolve in the light of new discoveries, we find ourselves living in an unprecedented time of opportunity for consciousness development. The ancient dream of understanding the relationship between awareness and reality is beginning to find expression through the sophisticated instruments and theories of modern science, while never losing touch with the wisdom traditions that have explored these territories for millennia. This convergence doesn't diminish the mystery of consciousness, but reveals it to be even more profound and wonderful than we previously imagined. You are living in a universe where consciousness and quantum mechanics dance together in ways we're only beginning to understand, where your emotional states create measurable changes in electromagnetic fields, and where the quality of your attention might influence reality in subtle but significant ways. Rest in this recognition with both appropriate humility and genuine wonder. You are a conscious being contemplating the nature of consciousness itself, using awareness to investigate awareness, participating in the universe's attempt to understand itself through the miracle of your own reflective capacity. The electromagnetic field of your heart continues to pulse outward as we conclude our exploration, carrying information about your emotional state into the space around you, potentially influencing the biofields of others in ways both subtle and profound. The quantum processes in your brain continue their mysterious dance, generating the thoughts and experiences that constitute your ongoing stream of consciousness, perhaps accessing forms of information processing that transcend classical computational limits. You exist at the intersection of electromagnetic fields and quantum possibilities, of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science, of individual awareness and collective consciousness. In understanding these connections, you begin to glimpse both your true nature and your potential role in the ongoing evolution of consciousness itself. Take a breath and allow yourself to settle into this moment of reflection. Throughout our exploration, we've discovered that your heart generates electromagnetic fields that extend beyond your body, that quantum effects operate within living systems in ways that challenge our understanding of biology, and that consciousness itself might involve forms of information processing that transcend classical computational limits. But what do these discoveries mean for how you live your daily life, how you relate to others, and how you understand your place in the vast web of existence? The practical implications begin to emerge when we consider how this expanded understanding might influence your approach to what researchers call presence practices. Traditional contemplative traditions have long recognized that the quality of your attention profoundly affects both your inner experience and your interactions with the world around you. Now, scientific research is beginning to provide frameworks for understanding why this might be true. When you cultivate what the HeartMath Institute calls coherent emotional states, feelings like genuine appreciation, compassion, or contentment, measurable changes occur throughout your electromagnetic field. Your heart rhythm becomes more ordered, creating smoother patterns that optimize cardiovascular efficiency and appear to influence the coherence of other physiological systems. Some interpretations of this research suggest that these coherent patterns might create more harmonious electromagnetic signatures that could potentially influence the biofields of others nearby, though the mechanisms involved remain speculative. Consider how this perspective might transform your understanding of what it means to be present with another person. Rather than presence being merely a psychological state or social skill, it might involve the cultivation of electromagnetic coherence that creates subtle but measurable changes in the energetic environment you share with others. This doesn't mean you can control or manipulate other people through your biofield, but it might suggest that your inner state contributes to the collective atmosphere in ways you hadn't previously considered. As you reflect on your own experiences of deep presence, whether in conversation, in nature, or during moments of quiet contemplation, notice how these states feel qualitatively different from ordinary scattered awareness. Some practitioners report that cultivating coherent presence feels like tuning into a deeper frequency of being, one that seems to resonate with something larger than individual consciousness. This brings us to what some researchers call the field effects of consciousness, though it's crucial to emphasize that these effects remain poorly understood and highly speculative. The basic idea, drawn from observations in group meditation settings and collective coherence research, suggests that when multiple individuals cultivate coherent states of consciousness simultaneously, something measurable might occur that transcends the sum of individual contributions. Studies conducted by organizations like the Global Coherence Initiative have documented correlations between large-scale group meditation events and temporary changes in electromagnetic monitoring stations around the world. Though these findings remain preliminary and don't establish causal relationships, the proposed mechanisms are unclear and could involve conventional factors rather than direct consciousness field interactions. Nevertheless, these investigations point toward possibilities for collective human experience that resonate with quantum insights about the interconnected nature of reality. If consciousness emerges from complex interactions between electromagnetic fields, quantum information processing, and environmental relationships, then perhaps collective consciousness represents more than a metaphor, though any such effects would likely be subtle and require much more research to understand. Take a moment to consider your own experiences of collective coherence. Have you ever participated in group activities where the collective energy felt palpably different from the sum of individual contributions? Whether during shared meditation, musical performances, or moments of communal silence, many people report experiences that suggest something emerges from groups that transcends individual awareness, though the mechanisms involved remain mysterious. The quantum perspective on consciousness also offers new frameworks for understanding what contemplatives have long called non-dual awareness, states of consciousness where the normal boundaries between self and world seem to dissolve. While these experiences don't involve literal quantum entanglements between minds, they might reflect deeper truths about the nature of consciousness that resonate with quantum insights about the fundamental interconnectedness underlying apparent separateness. From a quantum field theory perspective, all particles emerge from underlying fields that fill the entire universe. What we experience as separate objects are actually localized excitations in these omnipresent fields. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness itself might have similar field-like properties, appearing to be localized in individual brains, while actually emerging from something more universal, though this remains highly speculative and lacks scientific support. When experienced meditators report states where personal boundaries seem to dissolve and awareness feels limitless and universal, they might be accessing aspects of consciousness that reflect this deeper field-like nature. While we can't scientifically verify these subjective reports, they point toward possibilities for human experience that transcend normal ego-based awareness and suggest profound connections between individual consciousness and the larger fabric of reality. As you contemplate these possibilities, notice how they might influence your understanding of meditation and contemplative practice. Rather than viewing these activities as merely personal development techniques or stress reduction methods, you might begin to see them as technologies for exploring the fundamental nature of consciousness itself and your relationship to the larger web of awareness that some say underlies all existence. The intersection of consciousness, research, and environmental awareness has led to fascinating explorations of what some researchers call ecological consciousness, the possibility that human awareness might be more intimately connected to natural systems than conventional science has recognized. While the mechanisms involved remain unclear and speculative, some preliminary studies have suggested correlations between human contemplative activities and measurable changes in local environmental parameters. Research groups have documented cases where sustained meditation practice in particular locations appeared to correlate with improvements in local air quality, water purity, or even social harmony in surrounding communities, though these findings remain controversial and have not been consistently replicated. The proposed mechanisms could involve conventional factors like increased environmental awareness and community engagement rather than direct consciousness-environment interactions. Nevertheless, these investigations reflect a growing recognition that consciousness doesn't exist in isolation, but emerges from and participates in complex ecological relationships that include other humans, natural systems, and potentially the planet itself. Your thoughts and emotions don't occur in a vacuum, but arise within intricate webs of connection that extend far beyond the boundaries of your individual nervous system. Consider how this ecological perspective might influence your daily interactions with the natural world. Rather than seeing yourself as separate from nature, you might begin to recognize your consciousness as an expression of the same creative intelligence that manifests as forests, oceans, and the vast ecosystems that support all life on Earth. This doesn't mean you can control natural processes through mental intention, but it might suggest forms of participation and relationship that honor your deep interconnection with the living world. The practical applications of this ecological consciousness perspective extend into every aspect of how you might choose to live, from the food you eat to the energy you consume, from the spaces you inhabit to the communities you participate in. Every choice becomes an opportunity to align your lifestyle with your understanding of consciousness as part of larger ecological and electromagnetic webs of relationship. Some practitioners report that spending time in natural environments while cultivating coherent states of consciousness creates experiences of profound communion with the living world that feel qualitatively different from ordinary nature appreciation. While we can't scientifically verify these subjective reports, they suggest possibilities for human-nature relationship that transcend conventional subject-object dualism and point toward more participatory ways of being in the world. The field of biomimicry, which studies natural systems to inspire human technologies, has begun exploring whether consciousness itself might learn from the sophisticated information processing systems found throughout the natural world. From the quantum coherence utilized in photosynthesis to the electromagnetic navigation systems used by migratory animals, nature appears to have evolved remarkable solutions for managing complex information under challenging conditions. Some researchers have begun investigating whether human consciousness might benefit from practices that emulate these natural information processing strategies. though this work remains highly experimental and speculative. The basic idea is that by studying how living systems maintain coherence and integrate information across multiple scales, we might develop more effective approaches to optimizing human awareness and cognitive performance. Consider how natural systems manage to coordinate incredibly complex behaviors through decentralized information processing networks. A flock of birds wheeling through the sky, a school of fish moving as a unified whole, or the coordinated responses of an immune system, all demonstrate forms of collective intelligence that emerge from local interactions following simple rules. While human consciousness operates through different mechanisms, it might benefit from similar principles of coherence and coordination. As you reflect on these natural intelligent systems, notice how they might inform your approach to managing your own mental and emotional states. Rather than trying to control your consciousness through force or willpower, you might experiment with creating conditions that allow coherence to emerge naturally. Much like how natural systems self-organize into harmonious patterns when the right conditions are present, the future of consciousness research might increasingly recognize that understanding awareness requires integration across multiple scales and disciplines, from quantum physics and neuroscience to ecology and contemplative traditions. As these different perspectives converge, we may discover that consciousness is even more remarkable and interconnected than our current theories suggest. Some researchers envision developments in consciousness technology that could enhance human cognitive and creative capabilities while maintaining the wisdom and ethical grounding that contemplative traditions have always emphasized. These might include biofield coherence devices, quantum-inspired meditation platforms, or environmental systems designed to support optimal states of consciousness, though such technologies remain largely speculative. More immediately, the integration of consciousness research with education, healthcare, and social organization might create opportunities for enhancing human well-being and collective intelligence in ways that honor both scientific rigor and contemplative wisdom. As we develop better understanding of how consciousness operates and how it can be optimized, we create possibilities for addressing many of the challenges facing human civilization. Take a moment to consider how your own consciousness development might contribute to these larger possibilities. Every time you cultivate greater awareness, emotional coherence, or compassionate presence, you're not only benefiting your own well-being, but potentially contributing to the collective intelligence and wisdom of the human species. While the mechanisms involved remain unclear, some interpretations suggest that individual consciousness development might have ripple effects that extend far beyond personal transformation. The recognition that consciousness might be more interconnected and influential than previously assumed carries with it both tremendous opportunity and profound responsibility. If your inner states really do contribute to the electromagnetic and informational environment that others experience, then developing qualities like wisdom, compassion, and emotional coherence becomes not just personal development, but a form of service to the larger community of life. This perspective doesn't place unrealistic burdens on individual consciousness or suggest that you're responsible for solving global problems through positive thinking. Rather, it recognizes that consciousness development and social transformation might be intimately connected processes that support and amplify each other in ways we're only beginning to understand. As you contemplate your role in this larger evolutionary process, remember that the most profound transformations often begin with simple practices that anyone can undertake. Learning to breathe more coherently, cultivating genuine appreciation for the ordinary miracles of existence, or simply paying closer attention to the quality of your presence in daily interactions, all represent accessible ways of participating in the ongoing evolution of human consciousness. The quantum perspective on consciousness ultimately points toward a universe that is far more alive, intelligent, and interconnected than classical science has suggested. Rather than existing as isolated individuals in a mechanical universe, you might be participating in a vast web of relationships where consciousness, electromagnetic fields, and quantum information processing dance together in ways that create the ongoing miracle of existence itself. This doesn't mean that reality is whatever you imagine it to be, or that consciousness controls physical processes in any direct sense. Instead, it suggests a more subtle and profound form of participation, where the quality of your awareness contributes to the larger symphony of consciousness that some interpretations propose underlies all phenomena. As our exploration draws to its gentle conclusion, take a breath and allow yourself to feel both the wonder and the humility appropriate to your situation as a conscious being contemplating the nature of consciousness itself. You are using awareness to investigate awareness, participating in the universe's attempt to understand itself through the remarkable phenomenon of reflective consciousness. The electromagnetic field of your heart continues to pulse outward, carrying information about your emotional state into the space around you. The quantum processes that some interpretations suggest might contribute to consciousness continue their mysterious dance within the neural networks of your brain. The observer effect continues to operate as your awareness touches each moment of experience, potentially influencing what you observe through the simple act of conscious attention. You exist at the intersection of electromagnetic fields and quantum possibilities, of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science, of individual awareness and collective consciousness. In understanding these connections, you begin to glimpse both your true nature and your potential role in the ongoing evolution of awareness itself. The practical approaches we've explored don't require you to believe in any particular theory about consciousness or quantum mechanics, but simply invite you to experiment with practices that might enhance the coherence, creativity, and compassion of your own experience. Through heart coherence techniques, quantum-inspired contemplative practices, or simply paying closer attention to the quality of your own awareness, you have opportunities to explore and develop consciousness in ways that might surprise and inspire you. Remember that this exploration is ultimately about enhancing your capacity to live with greater wisdom, kindness, and effectiveness in the world. The insights we've shared aren't valuable because they're scientifically fashionable or philosophically sophisticated, but because they might offer practical tools for developing qualities that serve both your own flourishing and that of the broader community of life. As the boundaries between science and spirituality, between individual and collective, between mind and matter continue to dissolve in the light of new discoveries, you find yourself living in an unprecedented time of opportunity for consciousness development. The ancient dream of understanding the relationship between awareness and reality is beginning to find expression through the sophisticated instruments and theories of modern science, while never losing touch with the wisdom traditions that have explored these territories for millennia. This convergence doesn't diminish the mystery of consciousness, but reveals it to be even more profound and wonderful than previously imagined. You are living in a universe where consciousness and quantum mechanics might dance together in ways we're only beginning to understand, where your emotional states create measurable changes in electromagnetic fields, and where the quality of your attention might participate in the ongoing creation of reality in subtle but significant ways. The implications of this electromagnetic perspective on consciousness extend into territories that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about the nature of personal identity and individual agency. As you rest here, absorbing these ideas like water soaking into soil, consider how this understanding might transform your relationship to choice itself. Traditional models of decision-making assume that you exist as an isolated decision-maker, weighing options in the privacy of your individual mind before selecting the path forward. But what if this entire framework rests on an illusion of separateness that electromagnetic research is beginning to dissolve? What if the choices that feel most authentically yours actually emerge from a complex dance of field interactions that extend far beyond the boundaries of your skull? This doesn't mean you lack free will or personal responsibility, though it certainly complicates these concepts in fascinating ways. Instead, it suggests that your agency might operate through mechanisms far more sophisticated and interconnected than previously imagined. When you make a decision that feels perfectly aligned with your deepest values, something that resonates through your entire being with a sense of rightness, you might be experiencing the harmony that emerges when your individual biofield aligns with larger patterns of coherence in the electromagnetic environment around you. Take a breath and notice the quality of awareness present as you consider these possibilities. Does this expanded view of choice feel liberating or unsettling? Perhaps both. Many people report that understanding their interconnected nature initially feels destabilizing, as if the solid ground of individual identity is shifting beneath their feet. But this disorientation often gives way to a profound sense of relief, as the burden of being an isolated self struggling against an indifferent universe begins to dissolve into something more collaborative and supportive. The research on what some scientists call morphic resonance, though it remains unproven and is not accepted by mainstream science, offers one speculative framework for understanding how information might propagate through invisible channels of influence. The basic proposal developed by biologist Rupert Sheldrake suggests that patterns of activity create invisible fields that make similar patterns more likely to occur elsewhere, though this hypothesis lacks empirical support and remains highly controversial. Whether or not such specific mechanisms exist, many people report experiences that seem to involve accessing information or capabilities that feel larger than their individual knowledge base. Have you ever found yourself knowing something you couldn't possibly have learned through conventional means? Or discovered abilities emerging in moments of crisis that surprised you with their sophistication and appropriateness? While these experiences could be explained through unconscious learning, pattern recognition, or intuitive synthesis of available information, some interpretations suggest they might reflect access to collective intelligence networks that operate through subtle electromagnetic or informational channels. The field of biomimicry has revealed that nature utilizes information processing strategies of breathtaking elegance and efficiency. Consider how a murmuration of starlings creates complex aerial choreography involving thousands of individual birds, each following simple local rules while contributing to emergent behaviors that appear to demonstrate collective intelligence. No single bird controls the flock, yet the whole system responds to threats and opportunities with remarkable coordination and grace. Some researchers speculate that human consciousness might operate according to similar principles, with individual, awareness participating in larger collective intelligence networks through mechanisms we don't yet understand. This remains highly speculative and lacks scientific support, but it offers intriguing possibilities for understanding how insights, innovations, and cultural shifts sometimes seem to emerge simultaneously across different locations and communities. As you reflect on your own experiences of insight and creativity, notice whether there have been moments when solutions seem to arrive from somewhere beyond your individual thinking process. Many artists, scientists, and contemplatives report experiences where breakthrough ideas feel less like personal achievements and more like receiving transmissions from some larger source of intelligence, though the mechanisms involved remain mysterious and could involve unconscious cognitive processes rather than external information sources. The quantum field theory perspective on reality suggests that what we experience as solid matter actually emerges from underlying fields of energy and information that fill the entire universe. These quantum fields exist everywhere simultaneously, with particles appearing as localized excitations or disturbances in the field, like waves on an ocean surface. Some interpretations propose that consciousness might have similar field-like properties, appearing to be localized in individual brains while actually emerging from something more universal, though this remains purely speculative. This field model of consciousness doesn't suggest that individual awareness is an illusion or that personal boundaries don't matter. Instead, it proposes that individual consciousness might be more like a unique pattern or frequency within a larger field of awareness, maintaining its distinctiveness while participating in the broader symphony of consciousness that some interpretations suggest underlies all existence. Consider how this perspective might influence your understanding of learning and skill development. Rather than viewing education as the accumulation of information in isolated mental containers, you might begin to see it as a process of attuning to frequencies of understanding that already exist within the field of collective human knowledge. This doesn't diminish the importance of effort and practice, but it might explain why certain insights feel like remembering rather than discovering, and why some skills seem to activate more easily when you're in the presence of others who have already developed them. The phenomenon that researchers call entrainment, where oscillating systems synchronize their rhythms when placed in proximity, has been documented across multiple scales of organization, from individual cells to social groups. When musicians play together, their brainwaves begin to synchronize. When people engage in meaningful conversation, their heart rhythms often become coordinated. When groups meditate together, some studies suggest their individual biofields may show increased coherence, though these findings remain preliminary and require further investigation. This entrainment effect might help explain why certain environments feel conducive to specific states of consciousness. Libraries seem to promote quiet focus. Concert halls encourage emotional openness, and natural settings often facilitate contemplative awareness. While architectural and cultural factors certainly contribute to these atmospheric effects, some interpretations suggest that the accumulated electromagnetic signatures of activities that have occurred in these spaces might also play a role in shaping the consciousness of people who enter them. Take a moment to consider the spaces in your own life that seem to naturally evoke particular states of awareness. Is there a place where you feel especially creative, peaceful, or inspired? While many factors could contribute to these atmospheric effects, the electromagnetic field perspective suggests that these locations might carry subtle informational signatures that resonate with and support specific qualities of consciousness. The intersection of consciousness research and environmental science has led to investigations of what some researchers call place-based consciousness. The possibility that human awareness might be more intimately connected to geographical locations than conventional psychology recognizes. Indigenous wisdom traditions have long understood that different places carry distinct energies or spirits that can profoundly influence human experience, and some preliminary scientific research has begun exploring whether these traditional insights might have measurable correlates. Studies have documented correlations between geological features like magnetic field variations, underground water systems, and mineral compositions with reported changes in human consciousness and well-being. Though these findings remain controversial and the mechanisms involved are unclear. Some interpretations suggest that the Earth's electromagnetic field might interact with human biofields in ways that influence mood, creativity, and spiritual experience, though this remains highly speculative. The Global Coherence Initiative has developed a network of monitoring stations that track the Earth's electromagnetic field and correlate these measurements with human physiological and psychological variables. While their findings remain preliminary and controversial, they've documented intriguing correlations between planetary electromagnetic activity and collective human behaviors, suggesting that consciousness might be more intimately connected to planetary systems than previously assumed. As you sit here now, breathing air that connects you to the global atmospheric system, consider how your consciousness might be participating in relationships that extend from the molecular level of your cellular metabolism all the way to the electromagnetic dynamics of the planet itself. This doesn't mean you can control planetary systems through mental intention, but it might suggest forms of participation and reciprocity that honor your deep embeddedness in the living systems that sustain all terrestrial life. Throughout this gentle exploration, we've journeyed from the measurable electromagnetic field radiating from your heart to the mysterious quantum processes that might dance within your cells, from the observer effect that whispers through physics laboratories to the practical techniques that might enhance the coherence of your own awareness. We've discovered that you are not merely a collection of thoughts and sensations contained within the boundaries of your skin, but an electromagnetic being whose inner states create ripples of influence that extend into the space around you. The scientific understanding of these phenomena continues to evolve, with each new discovery revealing consciousness to be even more sophisticated and interconnected than we previously imagined. Whether or not future research confirms the specific mechanisms we've explored, the journey itself has value in expanding our appreciation for the profound mystery of conscious existence and the extraordinary potential that might lie dormant within ordinary awareness. As you carry these insights into your daily life, remember that you don't need to understand quantum mechanics to benefit from the practical approaches we've discussed. The principles of coherence, mindful observation, and electromagnetic awareness can be applied regardless of their theoretical foundations. What matters is whether these perspectives enhance your experience and help you access greater creativity, clarity, and compassion. The electromagnetic field of your heart continues to pulse outward even now, carrying information about your emotional state into the world around you. The quantum processes in your brain continue their mysterious dance, generating the thoughts and experiences that constitute your ongoing stream of consciousness. You exist at the intersection of electromagnetic fields and quantum possibilities, of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science, participating in the universe's attempt to understand itself through the miracle of your own reflective awareness. And as you continue exploring these profound mysteries of consciousness and reality, you might find fascinating connections in our investigation of how artificial intelligence is beginning to decode the deepest patterns of information processing in the quantum password that AI wasn't supposed to decode. Until we meet again in this quiet corner where science and wonder converge, rest well in the knowledge that consciousness itself might be the most remarkable phenomenon in the known universe. Consciousness itself might be the most remarkable phenomenon in the known universe.